I think phytoplankton generates one of the best feeding responses you could possibly have. Like it just really gets the corals out there and hungry.
It's taken you a few years, obviously, for developing and testing. And now, as of like 2 months ago in Australia, which is, I think, where you test and release all your products first before you go overseas, similar to what DALUA does. You now have a coral food.
Yeah.
So what's that about?
It was released a couple of months ago. It's in the UK now. I think somewhere to the States.
Okay.
But yeah, the coral food is based tried and tested on the farm. We've developed it based on a lot of different ingredients that we've been using on the coral farm.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all whole ingredients. There's 9 of them. There's phytoplankton is my favorite one in there. So start with the favorite.
Right.
I think phytoplankton generates one of the best feeding responses you could possibly have. Like it just really gets the corals out there and hungry.
Yeah.
And then there is chimaeris, rotifers, cyclops, red krill, plankton, and a lot of crustaceans. And I can't think of the couple that are off the top of my head. Sorry, on the spot. But yeah, there's 9 total ingredients. There's no other. They're all creatures that are freeze-dried or dried creatures, little crustaceans. And they're either whole or blended, like the cyclops and rotifers are whole. The phytoplankton is, of course, whole because it's a powder.
Yep.
And the others are blended up to various different grades to suit different corals. And the reason that we've chosen to do a powdered food instead of a pelletized food is over the years of feeding corals, and one of my favorite things is to feed corals. It's just that watching your corals eat is, it's just satisfying. So satisfying watching them suck food in, and so I've always loved doing that. So how we develop the food to be a powdered food or of different grades is over the years of feeding these corals is noticing that pelletized or chunky foods and that old thing about using your large polyp stony corals like your dash and your scollies, a big piece of prawn. I've never seen those corals eat these chunks of meat. Small pellets maybe, but big prawns, they're spat out. You feed a prawn to an anemone and you just find it floating around and you fish eat it. They don't eat it, they just spit it out. But what they do is a powdered food and they digest it. I think it's because the smaller pellets are easy to digest. It's just much easier on that coral to digest the food. So we've moved away from, I've always, when we were developing this food, which we now use in bulk on the farm, before we were doing that and during the development of it, we were always using blended up seafood, going to the fish market and getting seafood, and it was working, but we were going through a lot of blenders because it's gross. But we needed the fine particles because corals weren't digesting anything big. And when they're not digesting it, it's being spat out and it's rotting and it's then causing nutrient issues, which are back down the start of the chain of how we approach the reef system. So,
so this is a powder food, like I said,
a few different size particles, and that's to accommodate your larger polyp corals, which can handle just a little bit size of a little bit bigger particle, and then right down to the tiny stuff like cyclops, which is like dust, and phytoplankton, which is dust. And that's for your SPS with the tiny polyp.